Welcome back to Conn TV. I'm your host, Conn Jackson. Now, Heather is in the other studio, Studio B here at Multicast Media, where we're coming to you live. She's gearing up for an amazing interview with Jackie Collins. Oh, I can't wait to get back to her. But first, it's time to head out to Vegas. Viva Las Vegas. We've got an Elvis wedding about to happen, but first up, we need to meet the bride herself. Elvis?
Hey Conn, how you doing? I'm here with Kirsten, the bride that's going to be getting married with me in the Elvis Pink Cadillac wedding, soon to be Mrs.
Rose.
So Kirsten, when did you know that Elvis was going to marry you?
We have always wanted Elvis to do our wedding. That's just been the standard. Like the first date, I looked at him and said that Elvis had to marry me.
I can't wait. We've got a live Elvis wedding. We're going to meet the groom, and then we got a pink Cadillac. Elvis is going to sing. Now it's time to go over to Studio B, where Jackie Collins is. She has sold over 400 million books worldwide. That's right, 400 million, and 23 New York Times bestsellers. And she's out with her brand new one, and I guarantee it is going to go make her 24th. Well, Heather, take it away in Studio B.
Thanks, Conn. I am here with the queen of romance, the incredible Jackie Collins. Thank you so much for joining us today. It is a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Heather. It's great to be here in Hotlanta. Is that what it's called?
Hotlanta. You said everybody's so good looking
here.
here.
Well, you know, I am shocked. The men are so kind of like sudden and nice and good looking and tall and big, and the women are beautiful. Really. My first trip in, you know. I'm impressed.
Well, let's talk about beautiful. My goodness, you walked in and our jaws literally hit the ground. You're a very beautiful woman.
Thank you very much. I worked very hard. You know, when you get up in the morning and you're on tour, it's like, oh God, I got to pile on some makeup here and try and get myself human to get out on the road.
And ladies, you're going to love this. Jackie admitted to me that she does her own makeup.
I do.
How you don't hear that in Hollywood?
No, you don't. And we were talking about a certain celebrity who's going to be passing through it sometime, and we're trying to decide how much of an entourage she will have, because they don't move without their hairdresser, their makeup artist, their stylist, an assistant. But I love writing about all that, so that's fun for me to kind of observe.
Speaking of writing, Conn already mentioned the incredible success that you've had. Before we even get into all of that, I want to go back to how it all began. I read that you actually got started writing about high school friends when you were in high school.
I did. I actually hated school. I was about 8 years old, and it was so boring. And then by the time I was 9 and 10, I was writing these dirty limericks that I would copy out of old books and sell them to my school friends. And, you know, they were kind of filthy in a way. 'Twas on the good ship Venus. I'm not going to go any further than that, but you can imagine what Venus rhymes with. And that wasn't mine. I got it out of an old book, and I kind of would sell this to my friends. I said, this is good. I love this. I love making up stories. So I started to make up my own limericks and sold those, and that was kind of fun. And then by the time I was 12, I was really bored with school and all of it, and I started just playing truant every day.
And I read you
got
booted.
Booted. Out of school. I got booted.
You got booted.
Well, yeah, actually, I say dropped out, but actually I was booted. They didn't like me.
That is incredible.
We used to go to play tennis every day, all in our neat little school uniforms, and there'd be this guy there. We called him the resident flasher, and he'd be going, and I would go, ha! Cold day today, isn't it? And of course, they were shocked by that. Oh, Jackie, how can you be so bold?
Right.
And then I was forging these notes from my mother. You know, Jackie's got a terrible sore throat. It might last 3 or 4 weeks, so don't expect her in school.
Oh, that's
because it's
funny.
a strep throat, you know, and I was forging. And one day I went home, my mother said, how's your throat today? You know, she was all narrow-eyed, and I said, oh, why? And she goes, because you haven't been to school in 4 weeks. And this went on, and I was nearly arrested once. I was down in Leicester Square watching movies all day, and I was about, 13, and the police came up and said, what are you doing here? Why aren't you in school? And I thought about running. I always remember this so clearly. I thought, I'm going to run. But I was a very adventurous, street-smart kid. And by the time I was 15, they asked me to leave school very politely. I had a sister who was a movie star in Hollywood, and
some people may have heard of her.
Yeah, some people may have heard of her, Joan. And my parents, they really did this. They burnt my clothes first because I wore outlandish clothes. And then they said...
They burnt your clothes?
They actually burnt them. I was really annoyed. I had this fantastic pair of, old jeans that nobody was had great jeans in London at that time. And they burnt them because they thought they were kind of tacky. And they said, Hollywood or reform school? And I thought for a few minutes, and I went, I think I'm going to take Hollywood. So they shoved me on a plane. They were so happy to get rid of me. I was impossible. I was a wild child, completely wild. Because we lived in a basement apartment, and I would bolster up my bed every night and get out the window.
You're a
go to
parent's
discotheques.
nightmare.
I was a parent's nightmare. Yes, this is true.
Oh, my goodness.
Parent's nightmare. So I went to Hollywood.
So you went to Hollywood.
And of course, I had to dabble in acting a bit because, I didn't know what else to do. But I knew all the time that I was an out-of-work writer, and I was gaining fantastic material.
Did you feel it?
Oh, I knew it.
Even as a kid, you knew it.
Yeah, because I was telling stories all the time and writing stories. I would start a book, and then I would say, this is, I wrote a book called These Things Called Americans, These Things Called French, and they were all about teenagers, and I would cut out pictures from magazines and stick them in to illustrate the books. I've still got them somewhere.
So you felt maybe that you had a hand on you your entire life saying, this is the direction that you're going to go.
I think so, because my parents said, you can't do it. You cannot be a writer. You didn't go to high school. I mean, you didn't finish school. You didn't go to college. You don't have any degrees. You cannot do it. And I said, screw that. I'm going to do it. And I really impart this message to women everywhere. Girls can do anything. Because I'm a typical example of somebody who dropped out of school, was not encouraged in anything, was not bad looking, so I was told I could be an actress. Oh, thank you very much. I don't want to. And yet, I pursued my dream. And I really believe that if people pursue their dreams, they can make it.
Now, I've read also that your characters are toned down versions of real people.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I live in Hollywood. Toned down. I couldn't write the real thing. If I wrote the real thing, people would say, oh, my God, Jackie Collins has gone too far this time.
That's hard for people to imagine because the characters are so diverse and there's so much drama in their lives as well. And to imagine that it's a toned-down version of real people, that's a hard one.
When I was writing Lovers and Players, I took the character of Red Diamond. It's a book about it actually really is a book about family conflicts, because there is this dysfunctional billionaire, and he has 3 sons, all based on certain people that I know in Hollywood. And the mogul himself is definitely based on a few powerful moguls who think they walk on water.
And it's interesting, no matter how wealthy a family is or how poor a family is, there is that one dynamic of needing love and acceptance and sometimes forgiveness and compassion within a family.
Exactly,
regardless
and that's,
of your socioeconomic
that's what Jed
background.
and Chris and Max are searching for, and they all have their own demons.
Party in Hollywood, do they go, oh gosh, get out of here, she's going to write about us in her next book?
Well, sometimes I do write about them. I mean, I disguise them, to protect the not so innocent. I mix them up a little bit. The late, great Peter Sellers said to me, he said, one of my mother-in-laws read one of your books and said, that's you, Peter, that's you. And I said, well, actually, it is, but I'm not going to tell you which one. So he had to go back and read 3 of my books, and he discovered himself.
Do they like it? Do these people
love it?
They do
he
love
said,
it.
it wasn't a terribly flattering portrait, and he said he really got it. And then the late, great Frank Sinatra said, when Kitty Kelly wrote the autobiography, not autobiography, the biography of him that he didn't like, he said in Liz Smith's column, and I had a book out called Hollywood Husbands at the same time, and he said, Jackie Collins is writing fact. Kitty Kelly is writing fiction.
Interesting.
And then he wrote me a little note and said, I hope you like the piece, love, Francis Albert. And so, that was nice.
Oh, that is amazing.
Yeah. He was an interesting man. I was privileged enough to know him in the last 2 years before he died. And of course, he was an icon to everybody. Pop me in.
I have to ask you.
Yes.
So many women relate to your books.
Yes.
It's like they're craving something that they're not getting from the men in their lives. If you could tell the men out there what women need, you seem to be able to really tap into something that women need.
Well, I would give the guys a message. I would say, just remember that the pleasure you give is the pleasure you get back tenfold.
That is a good way for us to wrap up our interview with the fabulous Jackie Collins. Remember, you get what you give. I'm going to remember that.
Exactly. Tell your husband that tonight.
I absolutely will. I absolutely will. It was such a pleasure meeting you.
Great talking to you, Heather.
You're more beautiful in person than you are
gorgeous.
on camera.
I'm telling
Thank
you, Atlanta, beautiful people.
All right, Conn, we will be back after this. Don't go away. There's lots more to come.
Thank you so much for watching. Are you tired of negative news? We are.
And that's why we're creating a movement.
By keeping it real.
With what you need to know. It's more than what's happening.
It's bringing hope back to our lives. So go to conntv.com and join our movement.